Christ has risen.
Truly he has risen.
As you know, my YouTube channel that I've been doing the past, well, it's been several years now, but it seems like lately it's become more critical for outreach to many of you who are watching. I wanted to go through, I had answered some questions on the colors of the icons in the church, but one of the questions was about vestments. Now, typically on the Paschal season after Easter, the priest wears white vestments. However, it's very unique that I receive requests to wear certain vestments here in this church. It's a wonderful, I guess, runway opportunity that you have discovered or whatever. With my vestments, I do have multiple vestments that by the graciousness of many people throughout my ministry have been gifts that have been either memorial gifts or just plain gifts to me for certain things that have happened in ministry. So I'm very blessed in that way, and someone had actually requested that I wear the blue velvet one that I have on today. This was a gift, a memorial gift vestments, but I wanted to take a moment to explain a little bit about the pieces of the vestments, because that was one of the questions that had come up, and the questions that people have been submitting to me. So if you allow me a few minutes, I will explain to you the difference. The underneath vestment is called the sticharion. It's white most of the time, even despite what the color of the vestments are. It's usually a white garment. And the Jews back in the day used to wear a wool tunic that would come over them. And the transition was to distinguish the clergy from this tunic that we would wear. It would be made out of silk or a white garment underneath the vestments. Now the vestments, let me rewind for a second, come from the 300s. So they're Byzantine vestments that we wear. There have been some alterations and moderation or changes through the years in the vestments, but it's pretty much the same as it was 1700 years ago. So this first garment is the first thing that's put on, and it represents actually a wedding dress. It goes all the way up. It has arms. It has holes on the side so you can actually reach in your pockets, but it's covering up the priest. You don't wear full vestments without the sticharion underneath. Sometimes you'll see clergy and they have them and they're a little short, and that kind of bothers me because it looks like a mini skirt and you see the priest's pants. You shouldn't see the priest, his clothing underneath. It should be down covering the priest as a wedding dress. You never see a wedding dress with the bride's ankles showing. So the same thing with this wedding dress. It covers the priest, and it's as a wedding garment that comes over the priest as a bride and as a groom are clothed with this beautiful garment that covers them up and also shows that they are married or they are being married. Now the priest is married to the priesthood. So this is one of those garments that we wear as a symbolic wedding garment. To accentuate that understanding of the wedding garment, when the priest is ordained, the bishop sits in a throne or a little chair here, and the priest goes around the altar table and he venerates the corners of the altar table. But the hymn that is sung as the priest goes around the altar table is the same exact hymn that is sung when a bride and groom go around the table when they're being married. So it's the same, it's Dance of Isaiah. Everybody's heard that song at one point or another. Dance, O Isaiah, dance. So that hymn is the same thing. So the priest is really being married to the church at that point. And at that point when he's being ordained to the diaconate, he wears a white garment. And then if he is already a deacon, he wears the deacon's vestments, and then that's taken off. He has his white garment underneath and then wears the rest of the vestments come on. But it is the wedding of the priest to, or I should say the man to the priesthood. The next part that would go on is this part here, which is the stole, or epitrachili. The epitrachili, or the stole, it's one piece now, and you can see it has little buttons, and there's a center part here that divides it. I don't know how well you can see this on your screen, but it was to wrap around the neck of the priest. Now, if you were a deacon, or if you are a deacon, I should say, the deacon has a half one that he holds in his hand many times that you see like this, and it's wrapped around in a different way. It's very similar to that belt, except now it wraps around this way, and it represents multiple things. The prayer that is read when the epitrachili, or the stole, is placed on is about the anointing of Aaron, when oil is poured on his head and it runs down his head, down through his beard, all the way down to the fringe of his garment. So that represents this falling down on the priest, that the priest has been anointed with the priesthood. Now, this particular item is critical in any service. We don't need all the other vestments, but if you are going to do a confession, you need this. If you're going to do a trisayun, you need this. If you're going to say a prayer in a hospital, you need this. This is the one critical piece and the most used piece out of the vestments of clergy, and it can be worn by itself with a black robe underneath. So a lot of the services have this, and then as a secondary in some of the lesser services, if you want to call it that, the priest will wear the stole and the cape, the phelonion. So this developed over time where it's connected. Instead of wrapping it and holding it, it was connected, and it becomes a one-piece type of garment. But it also represents a yoke, that if you were to grab the end of this and pull it, I'm going to come with you wherever you're going to pull me. And this represents that we are in the field plowing the church. Plowing is ox plowing a field, and Christ is pulling this. He's pulling the priest in the direction that he wants to go, and that Christ wants to go. And these little fringe here that are on the base represent the souls of all of those in the community that are hung upon the neck of the clergyman. So they're the weight that I carry. They're also the prayers that I offer, the responsibility not to lose them, not to have them plucked off, not to forget that in the midst of being pulled, I'm pulling also all those who are under my care. So this is the symbolism of the epitrachili, or the stole. This one is embroidered. I have St. Peter and Paul here, and I believe I have other saints further up. This is St. Athanasius here, St. John Chrysostom here, and then there's more angels that are further up here. I'm not going to burden you with looking at that. And then these are some of the angels here in the front as well. So this is the second piece that is put on. And then the other pieces that we have are the cuffs. Now, for anyone who it depends on what kind of demographic you are, or of age. You might be familiar with Wonder Woman, how she used to deflect bullets with her wrists. Do you remember that, Peter? Okay, good. There's one. 100%. So the cuffs represent, not only are we warriors against evil, but it's also the cuffs that bound Christ as he was led to his crucifixion. But the prayers that are read is, your right hand, O Lord, is glorious in strength. Your right hand has crushed the enemies. In the fullness of your glory, you have shattered the adversaries. And then as we put on the left one, it says, your hands have made me and fashioned me. Grant me understanding, and I shall learn from your commandments. Now how these cuffs go on is a unique thing. There's a string. It zips back and forth in the little things, and you have to wrap it around and tie it tight. And if it's not the correct size, it starts rotating in the service, or it might slide off. So if you ever see a priest in the back and he's got his arm up doing this, you realize his vestments were probably hand-me-downs or not fitted well. And they have to be tight so that they're not falling into the communion, or they're holding things back. And it really holds back the sticharion, or the undergarment, so that it's not bulky and falling into any of the things that you're doing in the church service. The next part that goes on is the belt, which is right here. The belt, or the zoni as it's called in Greek, the belt symbolizes that we are ready to serve. We are ready to proclaim the word of God, to serve as a priest, that we are prepared to do so. And also the belt symbolizes that God girds us with strength, that he wraps us and tightens us with strength and makes us strong. But from a practical perspective, without it, this thing, the epitrachili will flop all over the place. So it really holds everything together too. So it has a practical function and also a symbolic function. The next piece is the phelonion, or the cape. The phelonion, as you see in the back, maybe, you see how long it is. This particular one has the vine of Christ on the back. But the back, at one point, was as long in the front. So this part here in the front, hopefully you can see it, that comes down here, just a little bit below my waist, used to go all the way down. And in fact, in some of the iconography, you can see that, and you can see that the saints have their hands and they're like wrapped in there, and this goes all the way down. So how that used to be was, it was all the way down, but they would pull it up and they would gather it up and then be able to use their arms and then put it back down again. Well, because of the impracticality of that, it was shortened. So now it is about this length. Some priests have it here, even shorter. I don't like the way that looks, but some priests have it. I like that when your arms are down, they're covered, and it seems like a good length. This particular vestment says Ierisu Kyrie and Visonde Vikiosini across the front, across the galloon, as they call it, or the fringe, which means your priests shall clothe themselves in righteousness. And that is part of the prayer that is read when the phelonion is put on. None of these vestments, nothing, is just put on. There's prayers for everything. So there's a prayer for the cuffs, there's a prayer for the stikarion, there's stole, everything. So those are the main staples of vestments. This one, too, also has, I had this put on, which is a double-headed eagle, which many times is a symbol in the church. You could probably see it on the floor there as well. The double-headed eagle many times is on the floor because it is against the rules of the church or the design of a church to have a cross on the floor. So that's why on all the carpeting and anywhere on the floor, there's no crosses, there's designs, but we don't have crosses on the floor. But the double-headed eagle is really the symbol of the Byzantine Empire, the separation between church and state, sharing the same crown of authority and power, and clutched in the hands, the talons, I guess you would call it, of the double-headed eagle. The next part is, as a priest, there's different levels of titles of honor for clergy. So there's the presbyter, there's ikonomos, there's ikonomos stavrophoros, proto-presbyter. There's in the past there was even more titles. The main, I'd say main four right now are presbyter, which is a newly ordained priest with just the title of priest. There's a confessor, which means that the priest has been received the blessing to hear confessions. So just because a priest is new and he's ordained doesn't necessarily mean he can hear confessions yet. So newly ordained priests are given time. They have to show that they have some wisdom built up and some experience before they can just hear confessions. So at some point in time, the bishop will evaluate a clergyman and say, you are now ready to hear confessions. And then they become a confessor. They receive the title of confessor. The next title after that we typically see is ikonomos. An ikonomos can wear the epigonation and the cross on like feast days. There's an ikonomos too, let me say this, there's an ikonomos that can wear this piece, and then an ikonomos stavrophoros, which means the economist and the economist who has a cross could wear this. So there's like differentiations between the titles, but typically when someone becomes an ikonomos, it means that the original title was really that they were a financial person that helped with the churches and the stewardship of the church. But the epigonation is, epigonata means on top of the knee. So epigonation means the piece that goes on top of the knee of the priest. It is like a diamond shape. It's typically one-sided is nice, one-sided is kind of basic. This one I had made special, which is St. Demetrius and St. George. St. George, because we just had his feast day. They can be plain with a cross on some vestments, and they can also have the different saints on them. I'm very blessed to have multiple saints and different ones that have come. So most of the major feast days of the church, I can swap out these embroidered epigonatia. So what does this represent? It represents a sword. The prayer is, gird your sword upon your thigh and go forth and reign and prosper. The sword is not to go out and start a battle, but it also reminds us of what Christ says, the word of God is a sword that will divide. It will divide the good from the bad. And the priest is the person who will say those words that will bring that division, that will bring people to God or also shake those who are on the wrong path. So this represents the sword. This piece, however, has to be put on before you put on the epitrachili because it needs to fit underneath. And it sits to the right side on the right knee. And in the Russian tradition, they also have a square that goes over here that's a different, if you see Russian vestments, they'll have like this big, really rectangle piece. I think it's called a Dabernisk or Gaberninsk or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But that symbolizes another rank in the Russian tradition. And the Russian vestments come up in the back too. I have one set of vestments like that where it comes up high. It doesn't taper at the shoulders. It comes up like this and comes across the back. Now you might be saying, why is that? Well, what temperature do you think it is in Russia right now? When it's cold there, they had these higher vestments in the back to protect their necks and to keep their necks warm in the cold of Russia and in some of the churches that did not have heat. So really the vestments were designed as a practical change to protect the priest's neck when the doors were opening or if the church was cold. However, ours is tapered and is in this particular shape now. The cross is given typically, I believe, in our metropolis when a person becomes a proto-presbyter. A proto-presbyter is the first of the presbyters. Means it's the highest rank of clergy that can be married. There is unmarried clergy that can have another level, which is called archimandrite, or archimandritis, as they say in Greek. So the archimandrite wears the hat with the veil. We can wear the hat, but no veil with it, because the veil symbolizes a monastic life, a life of celibacy. But the cross is given typically as the proto-presbyters. Now the proto-presbyter can also wear the cross without anything, without any vestments. He wear it with his black robe as he goes through the church or in any other church functions. You will notice that proto-presbyters will many times wear a cross just with their black raso. The raso is the one with the big arms, and the underi is a black robe that is smaller hooped arms that is kind of like the, as we call it, the ecclesiastical undergarment for everything. So this gives you a little bit of history that with the cape. Oh, I don't think I mentioned what this represents. The phalonion represents that the priest is clothed with righteousness, and he also has the wings of the angel. Symbolizes angel wings, that the clergy is to serve with the angels as we come in for the small entrance. The prayer says, may the angels enter with me. That's the prayer that the priest says. May enter with me, that as we walk in and as we put the gospel on the altar table, that together we can serve and glorify you. So the priest is always calling upon the angels to be with him, and this also represents that particular wings that are there. So vestments come in many different colors, many different styles. Some are embroidered all over, some are silk, some are cloth, some are wool. There's a bunch of different vestments. Some, this particular set is velvet. Some are really thin, some are really heavy. Some are hand embroidered, some are machine embroidered, some aren't embroidered at all. Some have prints that are literally like iron-on transfers, and then some have hand-stitched icon work. The colors that the priest wears. During Lent, the priest will wear purple or black during the week. Weekends are typically brighter colors. The blue color typically is the color of the Virgin Mary. We have green as Pentecost, red as Christmas, and those are kind of the major themes of colors. But white typically, like I said, now in this time of post-Easter, is typically the vestments that are worn, but again, this is to appease one of our viewers. So I hope this explains this a little bit to you and makes it understandable on the actual symbolism of the vestments and why they're used and how old they are too. The vestments come from the time of the Byzantine Empire, and if you look at the dress of the bishop, a bishop dresses with that kind of this, he has this underneath, and he has a shorter one of these with like sleeves in it, with arms cut out, and then he has this thing wrapped around his neck, and then he wears a crown, he's got a scepter, and he looks like a king. And that was really, in the time of the Byzantine Empire, that's how they dressed. The king, or the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, and the patriarch looked exactly the same, and they would serve in the church together. One would be here, one would be there. So sometimes when you see in the services, when it's like a feast day and you see chanters here, you see chanters over there, and you're like, why are they over there? Why aren't they all over there? Maybe there's too many. That side was really designated for the second choir, as it would go back and forth between the side of the patriarch or the bishop and the side of the ruler or the emperor. So that's how the church was set up. So there was two thrones, there was two chanter stands. So it was very, very different from what we see. We have half of that now. So we have kind of the half of the eagle, but we don't have the other half. So that's a little bit of the history there. But the vestments go back, way back. So it's not really a time of renovation or modernization of the vestments, but this is really a step back, 1,700 years at least. And if you look at the iconography, you'll see one other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, and you will not see it here, but I don't know if you can pan to that camera over there. Yeah, you're on that camera, I think it's blue. If you look at I don't know if you can see the bishop's throne. Anyways, if you look at vestments, and you see the vestments, and they have crosses in them, in icons, you'll know that that person in the icon is a bishop. If they don't have crosses all over the vestments, they're not a bishop. So that particular style was typically reserved for bishops alone. So hang on one second, I'll be right back. Okay, if you can't find an icon, you just bring your vestments out. So this is the pattern of the many cross pattern, and you see there's a cross here, and they intertwine with different colors. This is my set, my clergy set, but typically in the early days, this pattern was only reserved for bishops, but now you'll see some clergy who have this particular style of vestment. It comes in many different colors, but just to bring this out too so that you can see the pattern. But if you see in an icon this pattern on a saint, you'll know that that saint is a bishop. So I am not a bishop, let's make that clear, but the pattern is permissible for clergy to have that priest to wear this. So I hope this helps you today. I hope you have a blessed day. And a reminder, too, that this coming week, I will be having a gathering on Zoom, kind of a state of the church, state of the union, checking in with you, some discussion. So I will be sending out an invitation either today or tomorrow for that meeting, which most likely will be on Tuesday evening. And I'll try and do it at a time even where kids can tune in so that it won't be a long meeting. But I just wanted to check in with you and kind of give you an update on some things that are going on, to answer your questions, to see how you're feeling, if there's anything that you need as a whole, or anyone has anything that they want to share with the group. I think it would be nice for us as a community to have a little bit of a chance to sit in front of our computers and meet with each other as a group. So that will be coming this week. I'll send out the link to you. Again, I thank so many of you for your emails. It's really, as a priest, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming how much the church means to you, and how much some of the outreach means to you too. So I am deeply grateful for that. And I also wanted to thank so many of you for sending me screenshots or pictures of your homes, of how you have it set up with your computers. I encourage you to do that. It's a beautiful way for me to see what it looks like for you. And as I was driving into church this morning, on a completely different note, I drive past the Aurora Outlet Mall, and as I was driving past, Mayor Irwin, who's a fine mayor, someone who I've worked with and know for several years now, had set up the outlet mall to be a COVID testing station. And as I was driving on the highway, I passed the outlet mall, and I saw the line of cars, which was literally hundreds of cars wrapped around the exterior of the outlet mall with police there. And I read that the other day they open at 8, and it was 7 something when I passed it. And within 2 minutes of opening, they had already maxed out the amount of people that they could take. But one thing that hit me was driving past that line of cars and thinking that there's somebody in each one of those vehicles who doesn't feel well, who's sick or scared or worried that they are going to be sick or are seriously sick. Someone in every single car. When I used to pass the outlet mall, I saw cars there, it was packed before all this happened, and I knew that everyone who was there was looking for a deal. Now every car that's there is looking for an answer, looking for help. And I encourage you to keep all those in your prayers, because it's very real how this is affecting everybody. And as you may have heard, earlier this week, the Metropolitan has appointed me as a chairman for our humanitarian relief effort for our own Greek Orthodox parishioners in 26 different parishes, as well as a local outreach to 26 different communities. It is a task that I take very seriously, and I have good help. I have a good co-chair, Yanni Sianis from Calamus Vestments, who is very helpful and very organized and very diligent, and takes this particular outreach extraordinarily serious, and is someone that I've been speaking with for months, actually, about starting up a philanthropic arm of our metropolis. So he's not a stranger to me. I've known him for years, and I don't know if he's watching today, but I thank him already for all the work that he's done, and that we will continue to do with our small team. And as our team moves forward, and as this ministry moves forward, we will be bringing more members on to our team, but we're really looking to all the parishes in this greater Chicagoland area to help participate, to fuel this program that is very achievable, very real, very protective, so that there's no placing of anyone in harm's way. But we are going from Hammond, Indiana, all the way up to Libertyville, from the lake all the way to DeKalb. So all those churches that fall within that area, which are 26 different parishes, will be part of this program, and I will be coordinating them along with their clergy and their volunteers to have a very real and vital outreach to our own parishioners in the various parishes, as well as all those throughout the neighborhoods. So please keep this endeavor in your prayers, keep me in your prayers, as I know you do, and I keep you in my prayers, and continually pray for all those who are seeking answers, looking for health, and looking for God's merciful hand to come upon us all, to get us through this time, to grant us health and protection. And I pray that you have a blessed day today, and may God strengthen you. Like I said, I will be sending out to you that communication about the meeting on Tuesday evening. But until we speak again on that night, I pray that you have a blessed day. Christ is risen, and may you have a wonderful and blessed and peaceful and safe and healthy day. Amen.